Welcome back. Tonight I'm going to be discussing, George Floyd and just kind of the immediate action that I think all of us need to start taking, speaking up against these atrocities, these injustices, and just how would I put it, bring a voice to the silent majority, because I do think that most people objectively, given all the facts, given all the situations, would just be appalled at what happened to him, and I think, and that's kind of why I discussed or entitled this George Floyd and the True Red Pill. I know lately there's been a lot of debate about what taking the red pill means, but how I've used it in the past and how I think it's supposed to be applied is simply living in the real world opposed to living in a fantasy world. And that expression, ignorance is bliss. Well, this is not blissful in the least, and I do think it's something where all of this and all of our situations need to be speaking out against this, because it's one of those things where I know one of the arguments that I've seen against it in videos and such has been the percentage of police interactions is usually handled properly, and the majority of police are good in it, and I wouldn't argue against that. But that's one thing that I've dealt with my own pain and my own worries and fears, and that's one of the things I understand about fear and rational fear, so to speak, is that it doesn't have to be a high percentage of experiences for us to have genuine, validated fear. As a parent, when we were seeing all these school shootings, that was just one thing that I know with myself, my wife, and other parents, where it's just a horrible fear, and yet, there's far less likely chance that any of our children are going to come across any type of physical harm with school shootings, and yet we all have this valid fear, and it's not based on any high percentage where most of our kids aren't coming home, or even 10% or whatever. It's a fraction of percent, and yet it is a genuine, real fear that we are most certainly entitled to have. And so when you look at the fear generated throughout our society with what's going on and the constant life taking of innocent people, it really is something that we need to find our courage and find our strength to speak out against. And I think that's something that hopefully we all can do in every level of our reach. I know that I'm not going to reach a lot of people with my platform, just getting started recently and not really having a lot of subscribers and viewers, but it's just something that I think that I would encourage everyone at all levels to speak out against, just because I feel like that would actually, hopefully lead to dramatic change and immediate reform of how we interact and how we treat I say black people with the police. Is, like I said, I don't think it's the majority of police, but it's something where one bad cop is one too many. And so it's just something that we need to evaluate and figure out, why does this keep happening? Because really, I feel like the only way it's going to stop and change is really going to take place is if we all speak out against it. And it's just one of those things where I know I've seen so many unnecessary tragedies take place, and I think, like most people, I look at it and I shake my head and wish it hadn't happened, and then I go about my day thinking that my voice couldn't make a difference. And so it's just a matter of, I think that's one of the reasons why these things continue, is that we all feel individually like we can't make a difference. But I do think, from what I've seen online and in the outrage that the country is showing, is that I do think that if we all, rather than just, shaking our head and wishing this hadn't happened, speak out against it and be proactive about, kind of voicing where we stand in the situation. Because like I said, I feel like, even though it's not a high percentage of interactions, it is a percentage, and it's something that is a valid fear, and that we all need to come together to voice our disgust with the fact that it was so unnecessary on so many different levels. I was just turning my stomach when I was seeing some people that were yelling back at Black Lives Matter activists who were trying to bring attention to this, saying he was a criminal. And I'm just utterly shocked that that's even a response, that somebody could actually think that way. And so, I do think it's important for us to try to educate people with those types of views, rather than just call them names and such. I know that's an easy, valid, justifiable reaction, but I don't think that they're going to be swayed. And if nothing else, people maybe in the middle who aren't sure how to feel about this will be swayed by the compassion and grace that we can show them by trying to say, voice our opinions on how we feel and the facts. And the fact was, it was just so, I mean, the fact that the cops were even called is just unreal. But the fact that they used lethal force and murdered this guy is just disgusting. And it's just something that I hope that we can all, just be honest with ourselves and just be objective and just be like, this never should have taken place. This never should have happened. And, what can we do and what changes need to be made to ensure that it stops happening. And so, I mean, I don't have a lot of say experience or education on the matter, but there's just a handful of things that I've thought about that could dramatically change how we go forward with our policing the people and so forth. And one of the things that I thought, and I'm sure that a lot of people are thinking, is simply doing a psychological evaluation. Not to say that if somebody's psychologically imbalanced to intervene with the populace, that they're a bad person, but simply just that in and of itself, I think is just something that we need to be proactive and not wait until somebody makes a tragic action like this and just evaluate their psychosis and see if they can handle situations calmly and collectively. I'm not saying that there aren't situations where police are put in very intense situations, but if these people are supposed to be protecting and serving, I think it's important for everyone involved to make sure that they have the level-headed mindset where they're going to be able to protect the innocent. And George Floyd was certainly innocent. And so, for somebody to be supposed to be protected by the police and they're actually killed by the police, it's just can't imagine that we just continue to allow this to happen. And that goes to my next one, which would be to look at a lot more non-lethal forms of confrontation when dealing with somebody. Just because, again, it just seems like there's so many other ways that they could have handled it. I mean, like I said, the cops in and of it shouldn't have been called. But even if they were called, even if, there was a point where somebody needed to be, say, detained, but even just, the situation needed to be controlled. How in the world is sticking your entire body weight on another man's neck the right decision? When there's 4 police officers, how in the world, when this guy's cuffed, how in the world is that kind of action necessary in the least? All right, please work. Camera's having issues. But I'll just wrap this up, and that was the other thing too, is that I think that we need to look at the public risk evaluation of police intervention and just decide on it almost seems like we need different types of policing to do different types of interaction, where we have the same police pulling you over, giving you a speeding ticket or an out taillight. And again, too, it's one counterfeit bill. I worked at a bank for 4.5 years, and we came across counterfeit bills from time to time. And I never once remember any type of intervention or confrontation with the person that brought in the bill. It was just a matter of a lot of times we realized that they probably got duped into taking the bill. And it's really just a matter of looking for, I don't want to say breadcrumbs, but that was, from my understanding of how the police handled those situations, was simply tracking where they were showing up, just to be on the alert. But there was never, ever once any time where I saw a customer being confronted by the police for having a counterfeit bill. And so again, it just seems like of all these situations, my gosh, why in the world do we need police that are trained to deal with life and death situations, handling the same situations where somebody who could just simply take information and evaluate it. But it just seems like that we really need to evaluate when the police need to interact and when, just somebody who's a calmer, who's not used to dealing with somebody who maybe is, I don't know, just, it seems like that it's a continuous thing that happens where we have just too many, I say too many opportunities, but we need to really look at what these incidences have in common and how to stop it. And it's even to the point too where maybe, like I said, we need to do psychological evaluations of police officers so that people that could have prejudice or have a closed mind and just kind of predeterminations on how someone's going to behave because of the color of their skin, not intervening in these situations. Have people who extremely open-minded, and even to the point too where maybe that's what we need to look at is as having a combination of certain ethnicity, ethnic, or how do you put it, certain racial police where we have multi-representation in these interventions, so that yes, that four white police aren't handling the situation with one black man, because it's hard to not see the connection. And even if some of these situations are just a matter of I say police making it, I don't know, like I said, it just baffles my mind that this even took place and even happened. But like I said, I think it's just kind of all of our duties in this country for us to come together and just with one loud, unstoppable voice say enough is enough. This can't go on. And just constantly going at it, and like I said, just demanding that we have immediate action where we can intervene with these situations properly and just stop them from taking place. Because just as I was discussing, I mean, this show is supposed to be, or this channel is supposed to be talking about mental health and depression, and I just week after week you see these incidents taking place, and that just reminds me of there's more and more people needing help with traumatic loss, because this is by definition a traumatic loss, and my heart goes out to his family and friends who have to again just look at a mindless murder that didn't need to take place. And again, this was in this country. My twin brother died in war, but that was the reality I knew. I knew he was in a hostile environment and that he was risking his life to protect this country and so forth. But this was a citizen who was killed by his own police that were supposed to protect us and protect him. And so again, this is just, this would be like if the majority of troops don't shoot at their own troops concept, where just like that seems absurd that we would even acknowledge, that we'd just allow that as a percentage. But again, too, I think a lot of it comes down to that all of us have pain, and so a lot of it, I think a lot of us are blinded by it and don't realize this severity of what's going on in this country. And so I think that enough is enough, and that we need to come together for dramatic change so that we can be a truly united country once again. But yes, like I said, my heart goes out to the entire family and friends of George Floyd, and I hope that his tragedy can really be a momentum to change and make true change in this country for the better, so that we can all live without fear. And but yeah, so I hope everyone's doing as good as they can be. And as always, good luck and good night.